So from a time perspective, people who are poor, in my opinion, spend a lot of time not doing stuff. And that sounds terrible to say, but like at the base level, they're distracted. Well, I would even say not doing anything.
Just distracted in
Right.
life. Playing
Just
video games.
Netflix, etc. All that stuff, right? So there's like the base is like they don't do anything. They're purely distracting themselves from their current state, which is hard because it's hard to confront reality. If you're like not happy, it's easier to just distract yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Now the level above that is you've got people who are operating, they are working every day, but they're operating in low leverage opportunities, right? So they're doing things that do not give them a lot of return on their time, right? And so it's like I could work, it doesn't matter how many hours I work at McDonald's, but like it's very, very difficult to become wealthy then, right? It's just near impossible, right? Mm-hmm. Versus like you could buy a building for $10 million and then sell it to somebody else for $11 million, just get the contract and make $1 million on the exchange. Super high leverage. The only way that happened, and that required no money, is skill, right? And so like that's an example of like it didn't require money to make that money. That's skill that's required to do that. And so first is the time, right? People are not doing stuff with the time that they have, or they're doing low leverage activities with the time they have. And then they're not trying to increase their output per unit time, which means investing in their skill set. So like one of the easiest ways to gain leverage on your time, and when I say leverage, just for everybody, like leverage is the difference between inputs and outputs in a system. So, Archimedes said, if you give me a lever long enough, I can move the world. And so to the same degree, if you have enough skills, you can do anything, right? And so skills give you leverage on your time. So you get more out of each unit of time. So if I'm a master cold caller, I will get more sales and calls booked for the same unit of time as somebody who sucks at it. Same time, more output, right?
But because they developed a skill at a masterful level.
100%.
Yeah.
And so when people are allocating their time, they're not by percentage, they're kind of like consuming their time rather than investing their time. So they're either doing nothing or they're consuming the time rather than putting time into getting higher returns on their time, which is education, right? And so education you can have from like the conceptual learnings, watching stuff like this, or the actual doing, right? And so you learn
taking
more.
Action,
100%.
Failing, messing up, feeling like an embarrassment in the actions. Yeah.
The first 1,000 cold calls you make, the first 1,000 cold emails you do, the first 1,000 doors you knock on, the first 1,000, you'll learn more from that than you'll learn from every single book you read up to that point on the concept. You'll learn. And so I think like learning how to sell, learning how to build are the first two skills, and then leading, you learn consistently along the way for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. What would you say are the most important habits someone can develop for themselves on a daily basis to support their opportunities for earning more?
Most important lessons that I've learned in my life have come from doing and mentors. And so on a day-to-day basis, it's reducing the time between when you wake up and when you begin working, right? A lot of people lollygag and delay and procrastinate, things like that. And you just think about there's only a certain amount of time in the day. I want to increase my output per unit of time as much as possible. A lot of people have these superstitions that they have to do a certain thing, they must do X, Y, and Z. But all you have to do is talk to a single mom who has like 5 kids and they still start businesses. They're not doing any of that stuff. They're waking up and they're working before their kids are up, and then once their kids go to bed, they work then too, right? And they're not doing all the lollygag stuff that you see trending all over social media. It's like they're working. And so like the single greatest skill in my opinion is being able to find a place that you can shut out external stimuli and you can focus.
Yes.
The single highest ROI habit that I have is that for me, between 5 a.m. and noon, I have nothing on my calendar. It is just work, no meetings, and then all my meetings happen after noon. It's for the entrepreneur. If you're like in a job right now, then it's got to be in the morning before you go to work and in the evening after you come back from work. But like having that dedicated time, and if you're like, well, I'm not a morning person, fine, then just work late. Like that's okay. Like I've got billionaire buddies who are like, oh, I wake up at 10, but they work really late. That's their special time that no one bothers them. It tends to be at the bookends of the day though, just from my experience, because in the middle of the day you get pestered and it's hard to get into that deep focus, that deep learning that you get when you really pour yourself into something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I saw Layla mention this in a video clip where she was like, I just wake up and I start working. She's not spending an hour morning routine or something like that. And I think you got to figure out who you are. It's like if you want to spend an hour or two in the morning and taking coffee and going for a walk and working out and kind of like preparing yourself, great. I think for me, there is some importance to, at some point in the day, setting an intention either for the day or at night for the next day.
Agreed.
So if you want to get up and work right away, at night, what are the 3 most important things, or what are the actions you're going to take they're to get you closer to your vision that next day. So having some 5-10 minutes to have an intention and then act on it, right? As opposed to just reacting to the world.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what I believe. But
there was this one, to consolidate what we were saying earlier, because this matters a lot to me.
Give it to me.
Most skills can be learned decently about 20 hours of focused effort. 20 hours. Like the first 20 hours of you actually doing something, you learn the most you're going to learn about the thing. If you just consider by percentage of learning from like you know nothing to 20 hours in, you already have a really good understanding of the thing. The problem is that most people will take years to start the first hour. And so that habit that you're referencing is that my speed, at least now as I've gotten better at this stuff, is that like I try and detract the time from when I want to learn something or when I want to start doing something to starting it as soon as I can, because I just want to start getting through those 20 hours as fast as I can.
Yes.
And so that's just been a very tangible, because it seems like this amorphous thing, but there was a study that was done. There's like, in the first 20 hours you can learn almost any skill. Playing guitar, running an ad, doing like you'll learn more in that first 20 hours than any other time. So it's like, then just get to that 20 hours and don't delay.
Yes.
And that's been one of the deepest lessons I've had, because it took me 4 years to learn how to build a website, and it took me 1 day to actually learn.
Crazy. Because you decided to act on the learning.
4 years to delay and procrastinate and say, I'm not a tech guy. I'm not a tech person. This isn't my kind of thing. I'm a gym guy. I'm a local business owner. I should pay somebody to do this. I'm above this kind of thing. Like all these stories, right? And then one day I sat down on a Sunday morning. I was like, I'm going to learn this thing.
And you Googled it and you just learned it?
Step by step by step. And you know what? I set the whole day aside. It took me 4 hours.
Crazy. It's amazing. You'll hear, I bet you've heard this so many times, that people are like, I want to launch a podcast. I want to start a YouTube. I want to launch a book.
Yeah.
And they've been saying it for years and years and years, when you can literally go on Amazon and upload a book in an hour if you just learn the steps. It might feel daunting and like, I don't know how to do this, and how do I link my payments and create a book and put it up there, but you can create a 1-page book and launch it to at least say you did it, and now you know the steps, so it's not as scary. 100%. I think so many people are afraid to launch their thing because they don't understand how to do it, and they think it's going to take a lot more time than it actually is. You may not be good at it right away. Your website probably wasn't perfect, but you got the website up within 4 hours. And then you can make it better over time.
And there's because that first hour is you paying down the fear of uncertainty. It's all these fears of like not being enough. What if I feel stupid? Because you have felt stupid when you try to figure something else out. But like if you remember how hard it was to learn how to tie your shoes when you were a kid, right? Because it's like, I have to remember, and then this one, and the 2 bunny ears, the whole thing, right? But like now you can do it in your sleep. And it's just the emotions we have about beginning work, because of the judgments we're going to put on ourselves about how we're doing. And if we can remove the judgment of how we're going to do and say, I assume I'm going to suck. And all I'm doing is I'm going to start pulling the thread of this 20 hours. That's my only goal, is to start sucking. That's it. I just want to start sucking rather than nothing.
Right. You gotta love embarrassing yourself the way I feel.